USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero here on the Tour Coach Podcast, where we bring you the best mental coaches, fitness experts, teachers, players, everything from my journey in the game of golf to help you learn to play better golf, teach better golf, and enjoy the game. Come on in. We're going to have some fun. All right. Joining me here on the Tour Coach from my luxurious hotel room at the Hilton Garden Inn in Manassas, Virginia. Actually, it's a very nice hotel. I've struggled to find good food in this town, but that's for a topic for another day. And it is joining me two of my very good friends, Rick Silva, one of the great teachers in the game of golf from up in Chicago. I'm going to get to spend a little time with him this summer as to live in the Corn Ferry Heads up there. And Matthew Rudy, who obviously is a huge help to me. And also, he compared being on this podcast like multiple times in a couple of weeks, kind of like achieving maybe Diamond or Delta One status. I'm going to push it a step further with Delta Airlines. So Matt, Rick, thanks for joining me. How you doing?
Thank you. It clearly means I get a seat with more legroom when I talk to you.
So that's because you're at your house.
So Rick, when you're talking about Delta status, you're talking about like Blackburn status?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, nobody gets his status. No.
I love it.
Look, Rick, first of all, congratulations. I've gone through the process before with Matt, and it's a cool deal, but you've come out with a new book, just came out this week. I'm looking to read so I don't screw up the title, but The Golfer's Tools, A Practical Guide to Swing Science. It's your go-to to help navigate the complex world of the golf swing and golf science. I'm excited about this. I'm excited myself to read it because as we talked off the air, for lack of a better word, there's more shit out there than ever before. That's Alabama talk for complicated. There's more shit out there. There's so much stuff. I find more than ever when people come and take a lesson from me, a first golf lesson. And one of my things is talking like, well, hey, who have you worked with or what do you do? This, that, and the other. They talk about getting lost in rabbit holes with all the information out there. And to me, I haven't read it yet. I'll be upfront, but I'm looking forward to it. This is going to help those people.
Yeah, I hope so. And that was part of, I got my butt kicked from Chicago to, Connecticut, more or less, from Rudy trying to get me to pin me down on like, who's my audience. And I was,
he's good at that, by the way. He
is.
You mean the butt kicking part or the pinning you down about who the
both?
Yeah,
I've had my ass kicked and I've been pinned down.
And it was a bit of a challenge I hope that we challenge each other, but he definitely challenged me on this. It's like, who's your audience? And, I wanted it to be very much, mentoring is such an important part of where I am in my career and my life, things of that nature, so I wanted this to be, the voice in the directed toward like, hey, if you're an experienced golf coach and or you think a lot about, golf science, cool. Then hopefully I can provide something for you. If you're in the middle, I can definitely provide something for you. If you're a coach out there who's been teaching a lot of lessons and trying to, break through things of that nature, and you might be a little insecure that you don't know as much as you think you might know, this is 100% for you. But I also didn't want to alienate the impassioned everyday golfer, or heck, man, the tour player who's really interested in, how is the cake made, before it goes in the oven, kind of thing. And straddling those lines was very difficult. But Matt really helped me, push through that and come up with something that I think accomplished that. And that was not an easy task.
And Matt, before you say, I think now the lines between the tour player getting lost on this phone and the recreational golfer,
oh,
not
baby,
that different. They're not that blurred. And I'm fortunate.
I think we're in
great.
We might be in the coolest era ever for golf instruction, just because of the power of the devices in our pockets and the amount of information that's available and the democracy of that information. It used to be that you needed to luck out and be an assistant of some legendary pro and kind of learn, with boots on the ground. And obviously there's still a lot of value to having the right mentors, as Rick said. But the reality now is, if you have the right feelers out there for finding information, and you have the right filters in place, and you have the right attitude about finding things, it's all out there for you to find. But there's so much of it, and there's so much nuance to it, and the science is emerging and the technology is emerging. So what this really does, and I think what makes this a really cool book, is it serves very similarly in function to going and getting a lesson from a top teacher, which is curating all of the fire hose of information into the streams that mean something to you at a particular time. And I think what makes Rick's book stand out is it is the science for sure, but it's also a group of case studies where he takes you inside lessons that he gives different players with different issues, and lets you see those lessons from the perspective of the player and from the perspective of the coach. So whether you're a coach or a player, seeing how this technology integrates with what you're doing in a lesson, I think demystifies some of it, and it lets you kind of digest it at the pace that you're ready to go. I mean, there's plenty of super technical information out there to go get, and there's also plenty of Band-Aid tips out there to get. I mean, and I'm not throwing any shade on either one of those things.
No.
There's a place for all of that. But I think what Rick is doing is he's showing people literally how he uses high-end golf technology, golf science, in day-to-day, hour-to-hour golf lessons with elite players and 22 handicap guys in their 50s. And I think that's the utility that people need. It's like, in some ways it's like showing my dad is in his late 70s, and if he got a new iPhone right now, I'm not sure he would know how to turn it on. So you got somebody at that end of the spectrum.
Help him, get him to help me turn it.
Those folks don't know how to turn the device on. And then you have people who have access to every bit of technology. And, a junior player, for example, that's got his or her own TrackMan. There's no shortage of data or information for that player, but they might not know how to prioritize what they see and figure out what the prescription is for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get more and more young players, from junior players to young professionals, where part of what you're doing is educating them on what their numbers should be, or what their force plate stuff, or what their 3D stuff, because now there's so much 3D you can do on a phone or whatever. Like, educating them, part of being a teacher now is educating them on what their good is, like what to look for. because they get lost. I mean,
how can you not?
Yeah, anybody. I mean, hell, I'm lost half the time. One of the biggest things I've learned with technology and with all the science and stuff is I've learned to not teach anything I don't understand, and to start with each of those things, whether it's 3D, like I'm experimenting with 3D. It's a little beyond what I would normally do, but like I know it's important, so I've invested in it. But like starting with the things I understand, which is what, however many years ago, I remember one of the first times I talked to Matt, like that's what I did with force plates. I just started with the basic thing. Even back then it was just setup, like knowing how, if a person was balanced, but like not teaching things or getting into things I didn't understand. And, it's the same for the teacher as it is for the student, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It definitely can be, for sure.
I mean, I feel like I beat this drum every time I come on this podcast. Randy Smith is one of my favorite people, and seeing
we
him
need to get you and Randy on together.
But seeing him teach a lesson and seeing him use TrackMan in a lesson was a fascinating thing for me. And the way he put it was the first time I'd ever heard somebody put it that way. And it's a parable that makes sense talking about this book. Randy has all the technology, and his goal is to understand the technology, because that's the language the junior players he teaches speak. So if you can't have a conversation with a player about what TrackMan numbers are, even if whatever you feel about it or don't feel about it, you have to be conversant.
Right.
And I think what Rick is doing is trying to help people be conversant in more languages.
Rick, I love the idea that Matt alluded to a minute ago, like a parable. I love case studies. This is more for me. Like that's how I learn. I learn better by watching. Like I would learn better. We always joke about these teaching summits that we have to go to or we go to, and right. Like, I don't learn very well listening to somebody speak. I learn way better if I go watch you teach a real person in front of you. And
for sure.
And I just
where you can touch it and you can smell it and you can taste it, metaphorically speaking, right?
Okay. But yeah.
maybe not smell it,
but it is in Chicago. I mean, who knows? But anyways, like I love that. So take us through, if you don't mind. I don't want you to give the whole book away, but take us through a little bit of what people are going to find, that might help a recreational player, like a case study, something like that.
Yeah, to your point of teaching seminars and summits, right? You've got whomever the powers that be, deem this person worthy of speaking. And, they might throw out some terms. And the immediate pushback that I've heard for years and years is like, well, you don't speak to your students in those terms, right? And and I'm like, well, but I do, because the clarification actually makes it easier. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'll be somewhat broad here. It's like, well, alpha force, beta force, gamma force. Okay. Yeah. But if we're in the mix of something, and I don't need them to know this, like, in a graduate degree context. I just need them to understand, like, if I happen to slip and say alpha force versus, more vertical on the club handle, I need them to have like a vague understanding of what's going on. And there's also a bit of a buy-in there, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be complex. I think ego kind of sometimes makes it complex, in my opinion. So the goal of what I was attempting to do here, and I hopefully satisfied that, was, okay, here are these complex, hard things that are actual and factual. It's just math. It's 1 + 1 = 2. F equals ma kind of thing. And okay, well, here's the language I speak. Here's how I diagnose somebody that they would need, more lift on the handle early in the backswing. And I'm putting it into the classifications of the topic, right? So that my fellow teachers out there, regardless of their skill set, can kind of go, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm not so intimidated by that. That there's a lot of practical, application to that, as well as, the everyday and passionate golfer to the tour player going like, okay, maybe that's me. Maybe I need a little bit more in context of what we're talking about, a little more lift up on the handle kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that one place that this book lives that is in a similar neighborhood to the stuff that we've done, Tony, that I like the most. It's reinforcing for people over and over again, the whether it's a coach or someone, a student who's consuming things. For example, if you're consuming 30-second tips on TikTok or on Instagram, there's certainly a risk that you can get trapped in kind of a swing position or an output based instruction experience. Like, oh, look where Dustin Johnson has the club at the top of the backswing, and that's a position you should get into. Or and if you're teaching people outcomes and outputs, and it misses the whole input part where things are happening. What you're seeing is the result of all this stuff that happened before. And I think giving people a better understanding about swing science, about forces and torques, and about where things come from, and is helping them solve problems much earlier in the transaction, so to speak. And my friend Mike Jacobs described it really well. He says, think about opening a door. If you have to walk over and turn a doorknob to open a door, you could describe to somebody how to do that, and you could take a picture of where they were, like where their hand was on the knob and when it turned. You could even take pictures of what the door looked like opening and closing. But just think about what would happen if the door's locked, right? You walk up and you put a tremendous amount of effort to turn the doorknob to open it. It doesn't turn. You get you put a lot of effort into it. It doesn't produce what you're after. So the amount you do it, when you do it, all these different kinds of things go into teaching people how to move the golf club around. And that entire force component and that input component sometimes gets lost or simplified or kind of smudged a bit as the tip moves from place to place across the internet. And everybody would love, obviously, a Band-Aid. Please just tell me how to change my grip. There's a place for that, and I get it.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, August 19th, only on Netflix.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you. Ooh. Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Walmart Business is in the business of helping your business. Regardless of whether you're building bridges, building spreadsheets, or building lesson plans. Ooh, that looks fun. Walmart Business can help save you time, money, and hassle so you can focus on what you're building instead of what your supply closet is missing. In short, we take care of business so you can do more with yours. We're the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
But I think what Rick does in these case studies is he says, once we figured out what the input needed to be, it tends to unsnarl a lot of the other issues or the roadblocks
very much
that people get. So if you can do go up this one step and learn about the input, you can solve a lot of your own swing issues without even addressing necessarily all the 12 other things that are happening down the chain, just because you've been trying to lay it flat on the top of the backswing or jump out of your shoes down at impact, because the picture you saw looks like Justin Thomas is jumping when the club gets down to the ball. The reality is that's the explosion that happened from all the stuff that you lit on fire way back a long time ago.
And I mean, we talked about this actually, Matt, on the last podcast you did, which elevated you to diamond status. But
we talked about it in Lessons from the Legends. How inputs are much more important than outputs.
Correct. And the fact that we're trying, and I know, and what I like about this, Rick, love about it is like, and I'm not great at it all the time, but like we're trying to fix the cause, not the effect.
Right.
So to that point, if I can, if that's okay, to that point,
it's your podcast. You can say whatever you want.
Heck, man. Like we look at things of like, through the lens of, is this internal or is it external? And what you mean by that, if you can humor me, and it's like, let's say you're inside a ball, right? And everything about you is inside that ball. So the clothes you're wearing, the shoes you're wearing, the golf club you're swinging, okay, because mass being constant, right? So how you move internally is a specific thing. So let's say that ball was going to move side, forward, back, or up or down. It would, because it's the cumulative sum of you. You would have to have some influence from outside the ball, right? So that being external. So okay, that's going to come from the ground. It's there. We're interacting with it. So how much is necessary, to what magnitude, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're starting to look at like force plates, ground reaction forces, things of that nature, I think some things get a little lost here, and they are incredibly valuable tools. I have them, but they're incredibly valuable tools. The thing that's furthest away from you, just think about it like a big torque wrench, okay? You could be doing all of this work externally in the ground, trying to get vertical, trying to move side to side, trying to create some spin. But if the torque wrench is out of alignment, it's going to cancel out or mute all of the work you're doing on the ground. Okay, so when you get into like causes, what's actually like actions or causes, and what's propulsion or reaction, that can get very confusing for folks. Very confusing, because listen, like, okay, I weigh 184 pounds this morning. Okay, so gravity's trying to pull me down, and it's pulling me down to try to in this rubble. Well, propulsion is pushing me back up. But here's the challenging part. We've never lived without it. So we don't know what it's like to not have it, right? We can't see gravity pulling you down into a pile of rubble. We just see the reaction. We see the propulsion. So when we go to emulate, because we're human beings, right? Like, we're very observant people. When we go to emulate the thing that we see in our favorite player, or, a buddy, or whatever the case may be, we're screwing the pooch, quite frankly, because we're not actually dealing with the action. We're dealing with the propulsion, and we're trying to recreate it. We're not dealing with the ingredients that made up the soup.
You're trying to recreate the effect rather than...
Yes, and you are hosed as a golfer. If you're trying to recreate the effect, you are toast.
Right.
Well, also, I think your instincts work against you too, because I think your perception is what you do with the handle. So people want to make the grip move faster, but the best players are making the grip move slower to make the
at a given point,
to make the club head go faster. So you might try to swing your hands as fast as anyone in the world, and the reality is, if you could only ever swing your hands 30 miles an hour, which would be tremendously fast, if you actually held out a ball and hit the ball with your hand's going 30 miles an hour. Essentially, that's the club head speed you can generate. But what good players are doing is multiplying the club head speed by making the grip end slow down and slinging the club head end faster. And that runs counter to many people's instinct about what they try to do in their swing, and what the, things like putting an airplane, for example, on the shaft of the club just gets your brain to think about inclining the tool in a way that doesn't require it to take such a complicated route from the top of the backswing down to the ball. And
absolutely,
that's the airplane on the shaft is the swing science. What Rick is trying to do is give coaches and players language to talk about what makes that better or worse, and what knobs you need to turn for it to work in your own individual prescription. Because the art of this, and Tony, you know this better than anybody, the art is standing behind a tour player. You could teach two different live guys tomorrow, and the physics of what they need to do, the laws of physics apply to them equally.
Right.
But the prescription, based on how they move the club, what their bodies can do, what their bodies can't do, the way they hear what you're saying, all those things are a cake recipe that needs to be different.
No, 100% agree. I'm thinking of the 15 handicap here, Rick.
Yep.
Let's pull something out of your book and give them a lesson. Give them something that you see a lot of common golfers do, a lot of recreational 15, 10 to 20 handicap. Because I've gotten so many folks that have messaged in or whatever, and they're like, man, I love that you're talking about this. Because there's these guys. I know one guy in particular that always messages, but like he's a 10, 11 handicap that loves this stuff, right? And like pull something out of your book that would help, that might help a bunch of 10 or 15 handicap.
Yeah. I like the case, Rick, with your friend who was injured, the one who couldn't. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to keep playing golf, and
that's a big one. And he's a very dear friend, client, friend, and he's had some very debilitating health things, and to the point where now he plays, I mean, pain-free. His golf is more his continual rehab than his actual physical rehab, just to get him to move better through joints and things of that nature. So one of the things I would say that stands out a lot, and it applies to CB, but it applies to the 15 handicap, all, both north and south of that, would be, so in the chapter, so we named the chapters a specific topic, right? And then we talked about it and then gave a case study. Well, I'm giving away a little bit here, but they all layer on top of each other, right? They do. So you have to be very specific, and that's part of this. But it would be in kinetic energy, right? Like, so how does somebody transfer energy? At what point? How do they do it? Well, I would say that the 15 handicap in which you're speaking to, here's what we know. So from like address to club parallel going back, the point where like the club is the furthest it'll ever be from you, and there is different opinions to this. I'm just telling you what we know, what our research shows, etc. And I'm so blessed to even be involved with Mike Jacobs and Dr. Stephen Nesbitt that I have this stuff available to me. I mean, I don't want to sound sappy, but I am incredibly blessed to be a part of this, right? It has changed my life. It has changed my career. It has changed how I convey information. So I would say this. Here's what we know. That going back to the ball analogy, if you're inside that ball, that most of it is done inside the ball, meaning there's a little bit of external or ground moving you a little if you're a right-handed golfer to the right, but it's rotating. We know that. It's more angular than it is linear. And the amount of energy that gets to the club head is very nominal. Contrary to, I think, even when I grew up, I had somebody who put a ball on the ground and told me to like push the ball back as I was making a backswing, which would make it incredibly linear, right? Because it's a straight line, right? And so I would say that the everyday impassioned golfer, and this isn't just subject to them, it's just the question you asked, if they understood just how little energy goes into the early backswing and that it actually needs to spin a little bit more than it does go side to side, I think their games would get better like that.
They'd be priming the engine with more energy.
Without a doubt.
Interesting.
Most people, your engine is what it is. Scotty Scheffler's engine is different than mine, which is different than Kyle Berkshire's, which is different. Your engine is what it is, but most players don't fully engage the engine they have when
I agree 1,000% with that.
Without a doubt. They're trying to go to the right. They're trying to lock out their left arm, get as wide as they can as possible in that very moment right off the ball. They're putting too much energy into the club head, and from a percentage of the whole, it's going to get drowned out. They can't get it back.
I think one of my other favorite metaphors that appears in there is I don't think people realize that when you swing a driver at impact, the effective weight of the driver is 100 pounds.
Yes.
If you're swinging something that weighs 100 pounds, the way your body would be situated to support that weight or to do something to it. Most people try to do a whole bunch of stuff to the club down near impact when it weighs 100 pounds, instead of doing things to it at a different time in the swing when it's virtually weightless.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to Rick was, how do we explain to people better ways to do things to the club when it's much easier to do them, and the movement you need incrementally is much smaller than, to get people out of this pattern of trying to do all these things at the end. Just like you're trying to cram for your test the day before the midterm when you were in college, there are better ways to do it. And I think what most people, and I think Rick can shoot this down if he disagrees, but I would suspect that the ailment that most people suffer from in golf is they're too late. The things they do, the inputs that they're trying to put into the club are almost universally too late.
Yeah, I'm not shooting that down. I would add to it, though, the stuff that they're doing in the load process or in the backswing has their body so out of position that they can't but not do it too late.
Right.
Because their body is so out of position, right? And I've had a reasonable amount of success with this. With, you take somebody somewhere between, and it depends on the person. Everybody's different, okay? But somewhere between left arm parallel as a right-handed golfer and shaft parallel, and just posing the question to them like, hey, what would be the most advantageous place for your body to be in to assist the golf club to get to the golf ball? And it's amazing how they start to move differently in the backswing to facilitate the answer to that question.
And yeah, their intention totally changes.
Absolutely.
That's something Rick says in the book all the time, which is just simply changing someone's intention about what they're trying to do. They can't, people, and actually I think this is a good way to think about the book, because people can be intimidated by the subject, but just simply changing your intention and having a sense for what you're trying to do and having it be the right thing is a huge deal. And I think what this book does is it creates much more straightforward intentions. So, if this, within this within this area, within this subject, this is what your intention should probably be, instead of this other thing that you might have been trying to do.
And I think one of the things that happens to the golfers we're talking about is they don't even have any intent.
No,
they're out there hitting at the golf ball, right? And they're trying to me, they're always trying to fix the last shot.
Yes.
Right? What just happened? Not understanding what caused what happened. They're trying to fix that result. And to your point, they're trying to fix it too late, right?
Or they're changing 7 things. Let's change all the variables and figure out which one was
and then they don't know. And to me, one of the most frustrating things for regular golfers is then when they hit a good one, they don't even know what the hell they did that hit the good one.
And it might have been just fluke that they actually caught the
and it
face,
felt
right?
exactly the same as the one they hit 162 yards out of bounds.
Yeah,
right. Like it felt the same. Everybody's like, great shot, but they're like in their head, they're like, shit, it felt the same as the one I just hit. That right. So, to me, that's the beauty of this. If you can help, I love the idea of intent. If somebody can go practice or work on their game and they have an intent and they know what they're working on. And to me, one of the big things with educating players is to help them understand the why they're trying to change something. Well, hell, then we got a chance at getting somebody better.
Yeah, for sure. My favorite is we'll be working on something and somebody will clip like, 5-6 balls really, really well. Right. And they'll go, hold on, I want to try something. I'm like, what the fuck are we trying here? This is like, I'm like, what? Like, what are we doing? Right. And it's like, but when that occurs in a younger life, I would have said like, well, I just go, okay. And then after they do it, I make them tell me exactly what it is that they were attempting to do. People are really, this is to Matt's point, people are really good at doing what they're trying to do of all skill sets. It's just
avoiding pain. Yeah.
100%. How far off the rails is their intent versus what should be happening from merely an efficient perspective, right? Like, so, but if they're like trying to do X, Y, or Z, they'll probably get pretty good or close to doing X, Y, and Z.
May not do it at the right time.
Amen to that. There you go.
This is awesome. Awesome stuff. Rick, let everybody know, one, where the name of the book officially, because I probably messed it up, and they need to hear it again anyways, and then where to go find it and all of that stuff, because this is great stuff. If you're a teacher out there, so many of our folks listen to this are teachers, and also lots of golfers of all skill levels. Let everybody know where to find it and how to get it and so forth.
For sure. So the title is The Golfer's Tools. And it was kind of inspired by like, okay, I'm a coach and I'm pulling things out of my toolbox, so to speak. And then the front cover of it kind of represents that. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. So it's The Golfer's Tools, a practical guide to golf swing signs. You can get it on Amazon. There's a link on my Instagram up in the link tree. But you can just search it in Amazon. I have physical inventory as well.
Let everybody know your Instagram.
Yeah, sorry. Movement 3, the number 3 golf. That's where that's at. Yeah.
Awesome. And we're going to post a bunch of socials on these, and we'll post some links to where people can get the book as well. Always love helping you out. And Rick, thanks for taking the time. I know you got lots of stuff going on. And Matthew, Diamond status. I don't know. Diamond Dew Sweeper status. I don't know what that does for you in the world.
Diamond Dew Sweeper.
Wasn't that a wrestler's name? Diamond Dew Sweeper? Diamond Dallas Page.
Probably. We're going to see you on the USA Network special soon. Diamond Dew Sweeper.
Wow. Awesome. That's perfect.
Great.
Thank you, boys.
Guys, thanks for joining in. Matt, thanks as always, buddy. Appreciate you guys.
I'll see both of you guys soon.
Soon.
Perfect.